It's Johnny and Jose with TigerBomb MMA, and we're here to break down UFC Fight Night Thompson versus Neal. We'll be going over the whole card, giving you our thoughts and predictions. The first bout of the night in a lightweight bout, we have Rick Glenn versus Carlton Minus. Frankly, this fight I'm staying away from. I saw the line and I saw Rick Glenn about a minus 320, minus 340, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why. I I won't say I was high on Carlton Minus. I was just a bit perplexed because I saw he was coming down to lightweight. He's a bigger dude. In theory, Rick Glenn's a taller guy. He's got, I wouldn't say he's got a reach advantage. He seems like the taller guy and the lankier guy. So I was just overall perplexed by this fight. Rick Glenn's kind of a tough, hard nosed grinder type of guy, type of fighter. And I didn't really know too much about Carlton Minus. His last fight I kind of missed. I went back and I watched some of his fights. He's not very good. I don't see a whole ton of athleticism from him. He's not very coordinated to me, at least. I don't see any real way he can win this fight other than maybe just a decision based off of, I don't know, just jabbing Rick Glenn. I just think Rick Glenn's a better fighter. I'm staying away from this one because I don't know too much about Carlton Minus, but from what I've seen, I've not been impressed. And I don't trust Rick Glenn worth a damn at plus nearly 300, or sorry, minus 300 odds.
I agree. This is one of those flip a coin type of matches. I see Rick Glenn having. Actually, I think it would be too much to say Rick Glenn has any sort of advantage. I mean, these guys aren't. Rick Glenn has fought some notable names, lost, some close decisions. But I mean, I guess one notable name is he beat Gavin Tucker, and Gavin's only lost 3 years ago. Which 3 years ago, Gavin Tucker was not nearly as skilled as he is today. However, one thing that stands out for Carlton Minus, which is a negative, is that he lost to Rick Story in the PFL. Rick Story isn't exactly top of the food chain, that division, but having lost to him by submission, that doesn't really look good, despite how much experience Rick Story has. Yeah, I think I'll be taking the over with this. I have Rick Glenn reluctantly, 29-28. I think he'll have enough just to barely eke out 2 rounds and take the decision.
Next up in the middleweight division, we have the debut of Tafan and Nchukwi versus the debut of Jamie Pickett. Both of these guys coming back or coming into the UFC from the Contender Series. Jamie Pickett finally getting his contract after his second or third outing at the Contender Series, and Nchukwi just making his debut in the Contender Series, getting a fantastic, brutal head kick knockout. I don't want to take too much time. I've got Nchukwi. I know he's got less fights than Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett's got 13 fights. Nchukwi, I love saying that name. Nchukwi, he's got like maybe 4 professional fights. He's the kickboxer. He's about a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Everything points to Nchukwi getting the knockout in this one. I seen tape on Jamie Pickett. Although he did get a fantastic knockout his last fight, he's a bit spastic in there. If you push him back, he he doesn't seem to know how to move backwards. He kind of just bumps his back against the cage. In Chukwi, he's very, very patient, and he's from the Cameroon. And these Cameroon fighters, they are built differently. I don't know what it is in their milk or what the hell's going on with them, but they are built very special. I see Nchukwi getting the knockout, and unfortunately for Jamie Pickett, I don't know. I like the guy, but I'm going with Nchukwi by knockout. I would say second round due to his patience.
I agree. This is one of those weird fights where, um, you have the significant, well, not significantly. I mean, he's mid 20s, but you have the younger fighter from Cameroon, Nchukwi, who has really nothing but an open ceiling. I think he's probably the one who's going to improve, fight to fight. And his youth is going to definitely play a part in this. While Jamie Pickett is older, he's, I think, at the tail end of his career, and the competition that he's fought so far has been pretty low level. I think Nchukwi has the power to take him out by TKO. And I'd say maybe in the first, second round, depending on how aggressive either he is or how aggressive Jamie Pickett might be. I think they're both going to try to come out and make a name for themselves, especially in the pretty stacked middleweight division. They've got to, because this is becoming a pretty exciting division once again.
Our next matchup in the bantamweight division, we've got Aiemann Zahabi, the inferior Zahabi, versus Draco Rodriguez. Interesting fight. Draco, another Contender Series alum, coming in here after picking up a fantastic submission. He choked the dude out in the first round. This dude is pretty good. He has an extensive amateur background. He's had a couple pro boxing fights. He has some really good jiu-jitsu, and he's fighting Aiemann Zahabi, who's 7-2, 2 losses in the UFC. He's been brutally knocked out at bantamweight. I haven't been too impressed with Aiemann. I think the Zahabi name really carries him in the UFC. People expect a lot from him from being Faras's brother. I think he has the know-how. I think he's skilled. I think he can perform techniques well in practice. I think when he's in the cage, his body just doesn't work the same as in practice. I know we hear about dudes that are in practice that are fantastic, but when they actually perform in the cage and live, they're just not there. I do see that from Aiemann. He's just the name, unfortunately. I think Draco's going to steamroll him. His boxing's good. His jiu-jitsu's good. I think he wants it more. He's a tough guy from Sioux City, Iowa. I got Draco Rodriguez. I think he's going to display his hands with Aiemann. I would say second round knockout, Rodriguez.
I'm also going with Rodriguez, and this is the unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Zahabi that he doesn't live up to that name. It's kind of like when you see other guys in the UFC or other MMA promotions with a last name Nurmagomedov, and you expect the same, level of dominance and grappling and such, but that is rarely, if ever, the case. Fortunately, it isn't the case with Zahabi. I think he's a little. I want to say I think he's necessarily over the hill in life. He's just over the hill for this weight division. In this weight division, I'd say Rodriguez is pretty near coming to his prime in a few years. But this division is definitely a younger man's division. And yeah, I see Drake Rodriguez possibly winning by submission. I think he has the better submission skills, at least that he's shown in the cage. While, like you said, Zahabi might have great submission skills in the gym. Either that, or maybe his bigger brother is just telling the guys, in the gym to go easy on him. Who knows? If that is the case, then sucks for Zahabi, because that's not doing him any favors.
Our next matchup is at catchweight with Winn going up against Antonio Arroyo. Arroyo coming in on short notice. The original opponent was Antonio Braganetta, so they just got a different Antonio. Interesting fight because Winn, being a tiny man at middleweight, tends to be, I don't know, he's the middleweight wannabe DC, which is concerning. I know he's DC's protege, very similar in the way they fight. The only thing is that Winn doesn't win often. Antonio Arroyo should easily win this fight, but what concerns me the most is that he's coming in on short notice and his gas tank's a little suspect. He's a taller fighter. He's got 3-inch reach advantage. Winn will more than likely have the cardio advantage because he has been training a full training camp, but it still concerns me. We've seen him slow down, and I don't want to touch this fight whatsoever. I'm staying away from it. It's hard to really make a decision because all the information in my head is saying Winn has all the advantages when it comes to being prepared. Antonio Arroyo has the physical advantages, but his gas tank is going to suck. So if Winn can tire out Antonio, more than likely can get a decision win. But I am concerned that Antonio has enough in the first round to possibly catch Winn, maybe with a guillotine when Duran's coming in for a takedown. Or possibly even knockout with a knee up the middle or just something spectacular, just catching Winn. He has been cracked before. He's been submitted his last fight after, of all people, Gerald Meerschaert beat him up a bit and then submitted him. I will say, just for the hell of it, just because I need a prediction, I'm going to say Winn via 30-27 decision.
I'm also taking Winn reluctantly, but I think it's going to be via split decision. And he is indeed DC's protege. I mean, this guy's 5'6", fighting at looks like they're fighting a catch weight of 195 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So being that short, you're going to be basically there's going to be a little fire hydrant, fighting against like a taller guy. So yeah, I mean Antonio Arroyo, I can't really say he's going to have any sort of advantage because this guy doesn't really have great cardio either. And he doesn't have that prowess to go after finishes. So this is going to become, I think this is going to be one of those standard boring fights. I don't want to say boring, because these guys I'm pretty sure trained for this, but it will be. I'll probably fall asleep during this fight. And it'll probably be a grinding win for Duran, win 29-28 by split decision or however that works. But yeah, this isn't. Yeah, I think this should have been. I think this fight should have been scheduled further down the card. I don't think it should have. I think it's way too high for what it is.
Our next bout at women's bantamweight, we have Sijara Eubanks versus Pannie Kianzad. As a fan of women's MMA, Sijara Eubanks is my least favorite fighter. I don't know what it is. Nothing personal against her, just don't like her. She's 7-4 is what the UFC is listing her, but I think that's an incorrect record. I've not been impressed with her, despite her fight with Julia Avila, where she dominated the incredibly high favorite. That was a shining point in her career. I was devastated because I had some money on Julia. Pannie, on the other hand, my concern with her, although she has excellent striking, she did have a close decision with Betch Correia. Personally, I thought it was closer than what it was. I even thought about betting Betch because I'm like, yeah, she's still got it. She's still a bit of a fireball, and it was close. I think Pannie though should be able to keep the fight at distance if she uses her kicks to the body to attack Sarge's body. I think she'll slow her down. Sarge does slow down. Sarge, that is, has the better grappling. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so this could be a real dicey one. But I think Pannie has enough to keep it at distance. Anytime they do clinch up, she'll attack the body with knees and then attack with elbows, and then just get out of the position, out of the clinch. So I will go with Pannie via decision 29-28. I think Sarge will have a pretty good first round, and then Pannie will take over after Sarge slows down.
That's exactly how I see this fight going. Pannie's definitely going to have the advantage on the feet. Not to say that she's a phenomenal striker, but she will have a slight edge via striking. And Eubanks, seeing what that she's going to be outgunned. She's probably going to want to go for those takedowns. So let's hope Pannie worked on that takedown defense because Sijara is going to push her up against the fence, and try to take her down that way. So this is going to be one of those, another one of those. Maybe it might be a coin flip fight. I mean, I see it being very close, just due to Sijara riding. Well, not so much momentum, just because Avila was her second to last fight. She did lose to Caitlin Vieira, but she did. Yeah, it was a huge upset, man. Avila just, I don't know why I bet on Avila.
I will add, Sajara Eubanks is actually 6-5. The UFC gave her a win. I don't know who they
Yeah,
phantomly gave her, but they have her 7-4. But no, Sajara Eubanks is 6-5.
she
Just
is
had to
6-5.
I had to say that because I'm like, that doesn't seem right. She does not have that good of a record.
Yeah.
Our next fight, which is oddly enough not on the UFC website, is Jimmy Flick versus Cody Durden at 125 pounds flyweight. Interesting matchup. We've got the aggressive ground fighter in Jimmy Flick versus Cody Durden, the extraordinary grappler and wrestler. Uh, Frankly, Cody Durden, I'm looking to see how well he handles this fight. I'm just moving forward to see if we have a contender in the flyweight division. Jimmy Flick, phenomenal grappler. He's great on the ground, transition from submission to submission. I really like what he has. I just think that Cody Durden's going to put it on him. He's coming down from his last fight in bantamweight, where he fought to a draw with Chris Gutierrez. He looked really good that fight. It was a short notice fight. He really handled Chris very well. I think he'll do the same with Jimmy. I think he'll just outmuscle him on the ground. I think he has enough prowess on the ground to avoid any submissions. If he does get on top, he will probably keep top control and then just blast him with punches, just attack him. And on the feet, I think he'll be the faster fighter and the more coordinated fighter. Although Jimmy Flick, he's a well-rounded guy. I see him being a little awkward on the feet. He's not very smooth. He's not super fast, so he might potentially get knocked out on this one. At plus money, I'm going with Cody Durden to win this one. Just to give Jimmy Flick some respect, I do see a possibility for Durden to knock out Flick, but I'll give Jimmy some respect. I'll say Durden by decision, 30-27.
I agree. I think while Jimmy Flick does have that, good chain wrestling or grappling jiu-jitsu uh, style, I think Cody Durden, being that he's a younger, I think his jiu-jitsu is being underestimated here, if at all. And I do think he has, the power versus Jimmy Flick, who I look at and I'm like, man, I need to get this guy a sandwich sometimes. Um, and yeah, I think I am also going with Cody to win that uh, as an underdog, either by possibly by TKO if he catches Jimmy in a bad spot, in one of those grappling exchanges, or just outworking him, possibly, when they are on the feet. So Durden definitely is a live dog here.
You know what? I'm going to change my prediction. I'm going to go very specifically Durden by slam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
By tombstone, or are you talking about, climbing up on the fence and doing one of those, what do you call it? Like, flip things, like
I'm going to go with
flying flip
a,
slams. I don't know what they call them.
I'm going to go with a sliced bread number 2.
Oh.
Our next fight, another fight that's been skipped on the UFC website, is Carl Roberson versus Dalcha Lumbigal, Jalta champion. I can't get the last name. Apologies. Interesting fight because Dalcha's coming down from light heavyweight. He's making the cut to 185, which is concerning. He could either look really good or really bad, but he's 35 years old. And I'm going to say that the weight cut's not going to be the best thing for him. The fight is essentially this: we've got a very technical kickboxer versus a godly powerful man who is I believe, I don't know what degree level in judo he is, but he's a very very high level judo player, judoka. He did lose his last fight to Magomed Ankalaev. After watching that fight, he clipped Magomed and he had him do the Fedor dance when he gets rocked. So I was like, holy shit, this guy can really hit hard. So that's something Carl Roberson has to be very careful with. I do think Carl is going to take this fight. Um, it's going to be an interesting fight the first few rounds. For whatever reason, this reminds me of when Sexyama dropped down to welterweight and he started implementing his judo more, and then he just ragdolled Jake Shields. So I can see Dalcha doing that. So that would be very interesting to see. But if he does come out with his typical game plan of just winging punches, he does a lot of exaggerated movements with his punches. He wastes a lot of energy throwing a punch, which does get him tired because he's a very muscular guy. Carl's very clean and tight with his kicks and his punches. As long as he can avoid that, I think Carl has been improving his grappling. We've seen that. He actually looked pretty good against Marvin Vittori until he got subbed. But that's Marvin, and he's doing amazing things now. He should win this fight, but I will be very weary because Dalcha, he's got that one hitter quitter. So it is something to keep an eye out for. He is about 5'8", and Carl Roberson is about 6'1". Yeah, I'm going to go with Carl Roberson. Second round TKO.
I agree. I think Carl Roberson is going to take this. And my main concern is going to be actually with the weight cut itself. And two things that I'm concerned about the weight cut for Dalcha, and that's, how his cardio, how's that going to affect his cardio? And is his power going to be affected as well? Because if it is, he's going to be at a height disadvantage. And I think Carl Roberson is going to probably take advantage of the fight if it does come down to that. Yeah, so this is going to be a very interesting matchup. I look forward to it. I think this, depending on how hard these guys come at each other, I think it has a potential of maybe being fight of the night. Who knows?
Next up in the welterweight division, we have Bilal Muhammad versus Diego the Lesser Lima. Interesting fight because we both are going to go with Muhammad. The thing is, how do you think he'll get it done? I'm just going to say Bilal Muhammad by decision. He has an incredible pace, improving striking. He's just looked really, really good his last few fights. And I got him decision. I think he's going to break Lima, not to the point of, stopping him, but I think he's just going to out grapple him, put him in bad situations, just out cardio him and just coast to a decision.
I agree. I have Bilal by decision as well. I think he is going to put on a grappling clinic, and I think they're going to have to open up tents cage side because of this grappling clinic. I don't know if that joke made any sense, but anyway, he did have a close decision with Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal in the main event, which we'll get to later. Very tough guy, so he's not going to go down easy. However, Diego Lima did beat Court McGee by decision, so that's a pretty big feather in his cap. But Bilal Muhammad is several steps above Court, and that's a decision that any judge would, slam his mallet on. And that's another joke. I don't know if that works, or maybe I just, went about it the wrong way. But I do have Bilal winning by decision, and depending on if he can get him into certain positions, I do maybe even see him getting a TKO by ground and pound.
Our next fight, the opener to the main card. At welterweight, we have Anthony Pettis versus Alex Morono. And I'll let you take this one. So you go first.
Sure. I have Anthony Pettis winning this by unanimous decision. I see this being a sparring match. I don't see any. I don't see. I don't see any guy taking a big, having a clear cut advantage over the other. I mean, aside from Pettis' experience, his current condition, skill set, what have you, isn't, he's well past his prime. Sure, he beat Cowboy his last fight, but that could have gone either way. I feel both of those guys, they're back from the WC days. Very exciting time. But that's well over. I think it's well over a decade now that they were fighting in that promotion. So yeah, these guys are well past his prime. And on Alex Morono's side, this is a quick turnaround for him, which is, you can look at it, one of several ways. But yeah, I just don't think he has what it takes to to clearly. Uh, I don't think he has a skill set to take on Anthony Pettis and beat him. So I think Anthony makes this one of his latest sort of boring sparring matches, and just wins by outpointing him.
And what I'm going to say next, I'm just going rogue because I'm actually going with Alex Morono. I don't think anybody is picking Alex to win because it's Anthony Pettis, right? We know who he is. Showtime kick. He has everything in his favor in this fight. At any point in time, if you were to say Anthony Pettis loses to Alex Morono, you'd look at me like an idiot. But with Anthony Pettis, I just haven't been impressed. He just doesn't show up anymore, in my opinion. His last fight with Cowboy, it's a unanimous decision, but he, in my opinion, he lost that fight and he cost me $10 on a personal bet because I thought Cowboy beat him easily. He hasn't looked great. I had him winning against Nate Diaz. I put a bet on Anthony Pettis to beat Nate Diaz, and Nate Diaz just bullied him around and just beat him up in the clinch. It was ridiculous. I know Alex Morono recently got knocked out by Chaos Williams, but who hasn't been knocked out by Chaos Williams in the UFC? Better fighters have been knocked out by Chaos Williams. That dude is just he's a monster. And then the Reese McKee fight, yeah, it was close, but he did enough to win that fight. I think he put a pace on him. He eventually started to slow down after getting hit by the body, but Reese McKee is a giant Skeletor, man. So it's hard to fight a very tough, tall, lanky dude like that sometimes. Anthony Pettis, Anthony Pettis is very fragile. I can't, in good conscience, pick him to win a fight any longer. He might break his arm. He might break any part of his body and potentially give up. He did knock out Wonderboy, which is fine and dandy, but I honestly think he just caught Wonderboy by surprise because that was, I don't want to say it's a fluke, but it just wouldn't happen again. I think with their styles, they're both Taekwondo guys. I think Alex Morono is going to maybe use his weight advantage. He's fought at welterweight longer than Anthony Pettis, and Anthony Pettis doesn't really look his best at welterweight. But in my opinion, it's a lot closer than what the line says. I'm going to say Alex Morono via decision, just slightly outworking Anthony Pettis and making Anthony Pettis a bit uncomfortable in the cage at certain times.
And with that, I'm going to change my. No, I'm just kidding.
Our next fight, also oddly enough, not on the UFC website, is a flyweight fight between Jillian Robertson versus Tyler Santos. Interesting matchup because I wasn't sure. I thought I knew who I was picking in this one. I initially was going with Santos, and the more I think about it, I think I'm just very biased against Jillian Robertson. I have never really appreciated what she can do, and her last two fights, she's shown me that I have to start respecting her grappling more so now that she's with Dean Thomas. Um, I don't like her striking at points because she can get beat up. Macy Barber just ran through her easily. Once she couldn't get the takedown, it's like she breaks and then she doesn't know what to do. It's like she has to reset mentally after a failed takedown, and then at that point she is just a punching bag. And Tyler Santos, she lost to Myra Borella Romero. That's a bad loss, but she did look really good against Meatball McCann. I don't think that's enough though. I'd like her striking. I think if she has the right game plan, she can easily win this fight. But that's if she can implement that game plan against the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Tyler Santos is a blue belt. She does look promising when it comes to the grappling. I just don't think it's going to be enough to stop Jillian. I will say though, this will be a decision for sure. If Tyla can do enough in the clinch, attack the body, attack with elbows, and then just stay vertical, she has a chance to win this fight. But Jillian Robertson, yeah, I think she's going to take her down, control her on the ground, and just dominate her from bell to bell. Again, it's going to be a close fight. I will go with Julian Robertson by decision.
I agree. I think Jillian has the advantage here. I think she has better grappling. She is slightly younger, and I think she is improving at a better pace than Talia. And to the points you made, she did beat Meatball McCann, which cost me some money. It's another one of those instances where I went against, the logical part of my brain and bet on women's MMA, and I bet on, uh, fighter with the nickname Meatball. Well, to Talia's credit, her stand-up skills actually improved a lot from a previous fight. Going into that Meatball fight, too bad I didn't, you know, too bad I didn't know about those improvements. Otherwise, I would have stayed away from supporting Meatball. But she did lose in her previous fight to Mara Borello, which is a horrible loss. That's the kind of loss where you want to just dig a hole and bury your head in the sand. So I am going with Jillian, but I think she wins by submission. I think her submission game is improving, and this will probably be one of the few finishes of the night. So Jillian by submission.
Our next fight at heavyweight, we have Marcin Tybura versus Greg Hardy. Fascinating fight. I'm really interested to see how they look at the weigh-ins during the face-offs because it shows here that Greg Hardy is about 6'5" versus Tybura being 6'3". I like the taller fighter in this one. I think Greg Hardy's been making some improvements. There are some spots where I question him when it comes to his cardio. He doesn't seem to manage his cardio very well. He's had some issues in the cage. He gets disqualified for a knee to the grounded opponent. He uses his puffer, his inhaler during a fight. I'm like, come on, dude. He went to a decision with Alexander Volkov. Now he got beat that fight, but he went toe to toe with Alexander Volkov, a guy who has way more experience than him and he's fought way better competition. At least he showed me that he can stay in the fight, right? He can stay in the fight and fight a taller guy with way more experience in him. And that comes into play when it comes to Marcin Tybura because Marcin, I believe he's the slight favorite as he should be. He has way more experience than Greg Hardy. The thing with him is that he's just very, very plotty and slow. He can tie you up against the cage and he's got a really good high kick. And that's really all he has to his name. Greg Hardy, though, he's an athlete, right? He has that power. We haven't really seen it too much in the UFC. We've seen him outside of the UFC just knocking people out, putting them out unconscious. He got a TKO against Maurice Green, which was, it was okay. It wasn't as powerful as I'd like, and he did kind of look really exhausted after that. But I do think he has enough to catch Marcin Tybura. He'll use his speed, come in, just crack him once, and he'll put him out. I would say Hardy second round TKO.
This is one of those kind of grinder versus power puncher matchups. I think Greg Hardy has, one. I think the first round, or 1 round's worth of power punches, like knockout power. And so I think if he doesn't get it done in the first round, Tybura is gonna just grind him, for 2 more rounds. So this is really, yeah, this one's tough. So if it goes past the first round, I see Tybura taking it 29-28. However, if Hardy can land, those uh, can hit him on that button, I think he'll he'll get him by KO or at least TKO in the first round. So this one's a hard call. It's either going to be Greg Hardy by KO TKO in the first, or Tybura by decision 29-28 just by grind. Tybura has okay cardio for heavyweight. I would say he has better cardio than Hardy for sure. And he has, I don't want to say great grappling, but he just has that, uh, that sumo skill where he just pushes guys to the fence and just grinds them out that way. I mean, his last fight didn't look really too great with Ben Rothwell. It just looked like two guys just swatting at flies for several rounds, but he got it done. I mean, versus Ben Rothwell, Ben's not a pushover by any means, and he looked horrible in that fight. So we'll see what Greg Hardy has, what he brings to the table. So I think that first round is going to be pretty exciting, but it's just going to go downhill after that for Greg Hardy. So I don't want to go around in circles, but it looks like I just went around in two circles.
Our next fight at bantamweight, we've got the return of Marlon Magic Moraes and Rob Font making his return after a year off. Interesting fight, just because we're kind of running out of time. Marlon Moraes, I think he might have an issue fighting taller, lankier dudes. Sandhagen put it on him. He before that spinning heel kick that landed on the side of the head, I didn't like the way Marlon was looking. It's like his cardio. He runs out of cardio immediately, and I don't understand how. I know he's a very muscular dude. He looks like Frieza, for God's sakes. It's just that does concern me. If he can't get you out of there as soon as possible, it's like he just runs out of energy. It's like it's out of juice immediately. Rob Font coming back after a year off, and I think that's going to do him really well. He has good boxing. His movement should be enough to stifle Marlon a bit. He has to be wary of the leg kicks. He should use his jab and his reach advantage. I think he's going to crack Marlon because I am thinking that Marlon has taken a lot of punishment in his last few fights. His fight with Aldo, I thought he should have KO'd him with that one. First round. He threw that high kick, didn't knock out Aldo, and it's just like, we are in trouble, boys who bet Marlon Moraes. Luckily, he pulled it off. Thank you, judges. But Rob Font, I think he should have enough to take out Marlon Moraes. If not by knockout, I think maybe by the second round, say Marlon Moraes has a really good first round. Rob Font is tough enough to withstand Marlon's barrage. I think he'll take over the last two rounds, just work the body, work the head, use his reach and his jab, and then just outpoint Marlon Moraes, who would be exhausted maybe by, I don't know, the second minute of the second round. And then at that point, all Rob Font. So I'll take Rob Font via decision 29-28.
That's very specific.
I need to be, dude, because I didn't want to say this, but I almost bet the draw with the Davis and Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. And I didn't want to say it. I know I'm going to look like a but I almost bet the line, but I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. And I just didn't put my $10. But no, I need to be a little bit more specific, and I need to go with my gut more often than not. So I'm going to try to be more specific in the future and kind of go with what I believe.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. He's only that's crazy to predict exactly how much, like, what minute his cardio gives up.
I've been timing him.
Well, this is kind of a tough one, and that's just due to the quick turnaround for Moraes. He got TKO'd 2 months ago by Sandhagen, and all the credit to Sandhagen, man. He came, everything pointed to him winning, but against my better judgment, I went with Moraes. He let me down. I don't. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough call. Being that it's a tough, quick turnaround. If Rob puts some heat behind his punches, he can very well, I feel, lay him out. If not, if he comes in, a little bit too relaxed, for having been out, over a year, Moraes might just very well just get that decision. I think it all depends on how aggressive Rob Font comes into this fight. Because if he comes in aggressive, if his coaches paid attention to to Moraes getting knocked out, and if they have him come out, to bang, I think he can take out Moraes. But I just don't see that happening. I see Moraes just eking out a decision, 29-28, getting at least two of those rounds. But this is definitely a tough fight to call. I mean, if I was placing a bet, I'd bet with the over. I think this fight goes over.
Our co-main event in the welterweight division, we've got Michel Pereira versus Chaos, the Oxfighter Williams. I'm just gonna say I'm doing the under on this one because it's a really tough matchup. I have throughout his career in the UFC, I've underestimated Chaos Williams' power because I thought that's all he had was power. That power will carry him to a 2-0 UFC run so far. And what Michel has he's 2-2 in the UFC just out of memory. He beat Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts with a spectacular flying knee. He lost his fight to a featherweight, and then he lost his fight to Diego Sanchez via well, an illegal knee, whatever. Anyways, it's an interesting fight because Michelle, he has a win over that terrorist who will remain nameless, and he looked pretty good. I didn't think he looked spectacular. He just happened to beat a very mentally weak guy in there, but it's going to be a very exciting fight. There are some questions that I need answered from Chaos. I want to see how well he does in the UFC going past 30 seconds. Okay, his last two fights, 29 seconds. The next one is 30 seconds, both by knockout. The way he flatlined Al Hassan, it was brutal. Like, it scared me. I'm like, this guy has ungodly power. So Michel Pereira, he has really good movement in there. He's very unorthodox. So he might be able to catch Chaos just when he's not really paying attention, because he does have flying knees and he's got crazy attacks. But again, Chaos can knock out almost anybody, in my opinion. So it's going to be a very close fight. Just because I've picked against Chaos so often, I'm going to go with him to get the win. I'm going to say by knockout. I what 16 seconds into the first round.
I think if you are going with Chaos in this fight, you may as well just get that KO prop, and you're probably going to get better odds anyway. Because if he does win and you cash out, you're going to cash pretty big with that prop. I think Michelle has a good chance of grinding this one out just by footwork and avoiding that knockout in the first round. I don't know what Chaos, for sure, the probability of him getting a knockout beyond the first round goes down, especially with Pereira and his movement and his, I don't know, he might have some new moves this fight. So this is actually a tough one. This is, I don't know. I don't really, I mean, I have, if he can avoid, Chaos's power, for sure I have Pereira winning by decision, unless, he decides he wants to grapple and get him in a, some sort of, either some sort of rear naked choke. I don't know. This is a tough call. But for sure, yeah, I mean, if you want to ride the Chaos train, jump on that KO prop.
My apologies. That was not the co-main event. It's such a really good main card that the actual co-main event is Jose Aldo versus Marlon Vera. And the fact that you bring up a train, because Marlon Vera, he put an end to that sugar train with that really nice calf kick that just crumbled him. And I kept thinking, man, if they were to put Jose Aldo in there with with Sugar Sean O'Malley, I don't think Sugar Sean would walk again. But this is a very interesting matchup because Cheeto Vera's coming in with the hype of just derailing the Sugar Show in Sean O'Malley. So he looked really good in that fight, at least good enough to bounce his head off of the canvas. And Jose Aldo, he's coming into this fight, he's 3-3, no, or sorry, 0-3 in his last three fights. He lost to Volkanovski at featherweight. He lost to Marlon Moraes, where everyone's saying that, he should have won the fight. I didn't think he did enough during that fight to win it. Plus, I had money on Marlon, so we'll skip through all that. Then the Peter Yan fight was very, very interesting. He took a lot of damage in those last few rounds, but he did look really, really good those first, 2-3 rounds. He was actually using leg kicks. He was making Peter Yan look human for once in the UFC. And his chin actually looks like it's holding up at bantamweight. this Jose Aldo that put down the burgers and is eating a bunch of salad looks like he's just a different animal. Although he is the older guy, he's 34 years old, and Marlon Vera's coming in at 28. I think his experience and primarily those leg kicks are going to pay dividends in this matchup. I think not to downplay Marlon Vera, he's a great fighter, but looking at who Jose Aldo has fought, he fought Volkanovski, the champ at featherweight, fought Marlon Moraes, the former number one contender, and then he fought Peter Yan, the current champion, and now he's fighting Marlon Vera, who is one in one his last two fights. This is an easier matchup for Jose Aldo. I think he can get the job done, put himself back in the win column. If anything, I just want to see Aldo throw the leg kicks. I've been playing a game when I watch the fights recently, and I see whoever throws the first leg kick is more than likely going to win the fight. If Aldo starts off with leg kicks, I think he easily wins this fight. I think he puts Chito Vera in some trouble. He won't finish him, so I'll go with Aldo by decision.
Yeah, this is one of those. You know, this is what a meme that comes to mind is when a kid asks the mom at the supermarket, I want Jose Aldo. And the mom says, we have Jose Aldo at home. Well, the Jose Aldo at home is definitely Vera. While he does have, he did take out Sugar with that leg kick. He apparently hit a nerve, and the Sugar show crumbled like a cookie. I think Jose Aldo's kicks, are far superior. If Marlon Vera wants to get into that kicking game with Aldo, I think Aldo's going to school him. I think Aldo's just, well, he's a few years past his prime. I think Aldo's experience and his prowess are far and above anything that Vera's faced so far. I think this is, a definite. There's a large gap in skill, both skill wise as well as experience, going from, the Sugar Train to Aldo. Aldo's fought the best of the best for the past, however many years, his whole UFC career, and he had some, all those crazy wins back in the WEC. And he did give Peter Yan, those problems in the championship fight until Peter Yan stopped him. So that was a great fight. But yeah, I do not see Vera outclassing Jose Aldo. And while Aldo isn't as sweet as Sugar is, I think he does win by unanimous decision. But who knows? Maybe this will be his first KO or TKO at 135. Also, one thing to note, Aldo is pretty good in 3-round fights. This is a 3-round fight. This isn't a 5-round fight. So I think Aldo will bring it. I don't think he'll reserve his, I think he'll just blow his load in all 3 rounds.
In our main event, and the final main event of the year of 2020, we have Stephen Wonderbread Thompson versus Jeff, the real deal, hands of steel, Holyfield Neal. And this matchup is fantastic. I've actually been really fond of Jeff Neal's run in the UFC. He's looked really good. Excellent power in that left hand. And Wonderboy is Wonderboy. We know what he's going to do. I've had trouble picking a winner in this fight because just without looking at tape and just out of memory, I just remember how Wonderboy looked in his last fight with Luque, and I remember he just schooled Luque those last 2 rounds. But then I watched the fight again, and something I noticed about Stephen Thompson is that he's not as fast as he used to be, right? He's 37 years old. He's wonder middle-aged man. It's concerning because he did get knocked out by Pettis with a straight, off the cage Superman punch. And the fight with Luque, his chin looked fine, right? He didn't seem to get hurt because Luque tends to throw his punches looping and hooks. He throws a lot of hooks, not a lot of straight punches. Jeff Neal throws straight punches, and he has a lot of power, and I think he can catch Stephen Thompson. Concerning things about Jeff Neal is that I looked at his fight with the taller, lankier um, Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland used a technique, very sloppy technique. It was very effective against Jeff Neal during that fight that Stephen Thompson does perfectly. And that's a lead leg side kick to the body. And that's a very difficult technique to time and master. And Stephen Wonderboy Thompson he's the master of it. He does it very well. He keeps his distance using that kick. Now, Jeff Neal does have to come in and enter Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's range and try to clip him. And that's by pushing him up against the cage and trying to land punches on him, straight punches. Because I think if you do land a very clean, straight punch on Stephen, it will hurt him. The last person to actually rock Stephen Thompson with a hook, I believe, was Woodley during their first matchup. I think Stephen does have a decent chin if he uses his movement, but his movement is he's getting slower. My concern with this matchup is that if Stephen Thompson can keep the distance and he starts feeling himself and starts getting in a rhythm, I think Jeff Neal might be at a deficiency because I do like Jeff Neal. I'm very high on him. I just am concerned with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's technique and that sidekick. He just had no answer for it with that fight with Kevin Holland. And I know that was years ago, but it is something that can be difficult for a fighter to overcome. It's a very tough matchup for me because I really am rooting for Jeff Neal to come in here and win. And he can easily come in here and starch Stephen Thompson because we haven't seen Stephen Thompson in almost a year and over a year. So with that, he has potentially slowed down even more from his last fight. It's a really tough one for me, just with all the information that I see. I am going to go with Jeff Neal just because I do trust that Fortis MMA can come up with a really good game plan to counter those kicks and just kind of not necessarily bum rush Stephen Thompson, but just close the distance enough very safely and smart, and then just crack him once. And I think if you do hit Stephen Thompson with a very straight left hand that Jeff Neal can throw, it will hurt Stephen Thompson, and it'll be a great night for Jeff Neal, server of the year for Texas Roadhouse. I got Jeff Neal, third round knockout.
I agree. I'm also going with Jeff Neal. I think Wonder Boy is way past his prime. I think his prime was back, even before he fought Woodley the first time, which is we're going on almost 4 years at this point. I see Wonder Boy just actually running from Jeff's power for most of the fight, trying to get his shots in, trying to get his his I don't know if they're patented, but his awkward angled kicks in. But I think Jeff is going to do going to. I think Jeff is going to do a pretty good job of avoiding those, getting into his into range, and just putting those hands of steel to work. Um, I don't know why. I well, Steven's last win was over a year ago, and given sure that was to Vicente Luque, but before that, uh, he actually lost to Anthony Pettis. He lost to a lightweight with, as you mentioned, that straight punch or off the cage, straight Superman punch, which still, when I look at that, is it befuddles me as to how he got knocked out with that.
Yeah, it didn't look very hard, but it was effective. So that's why I think Jeff Neal hits a lot harder.
Yeah. So I think if I think Jeff's going to have the movement at this point in the game, um, to show Steven why they call him Hands of Steel, and it's not because they're playing doctor in the back behind the curtain. Yeah, I have Jeff Neal. If I'm going to take him, I'm going to take him by TKO. I might sprinkle a little bit on that decision, but if he wins, I think he's going to take him out pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this matchup. I'm actually going to order, out of respect for Jeff Neal, some Texas Roadhouse and enjoy the matchup. I might not bet this one, just to be upfront with you guys, because I am concerned that Stephen Thompson can do his Stephen Thompson things. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this matchup highly. This is probably my most anticipated matchup of the year because I'm really high on Jeff Neal, and I think he needs to get Stephen Thompson out of the welterweight division. Not to say I dislike Stephen Thompson or anything. It's just that he's up there in age, and we need some new blood. But as for you, Jose, being the final card of the year, any fights here that interest you the most?
Yes, all 15 fights interest me. This is
Jesus, yeah, you're right.
Jesus.
15
I don't know if
fights.
we've had 15 fights on any card, to go through, to be honest. And I was like, holy macaroni.
Yeah, this is the one where I'm like,
Jesus,
man,
15
COVID takes some
fights.
away. I don't want to do tape on all of these.
Yeah. Funny enough, I'm actually looking forward to the co-main event, which could have, um, I mean, I wouldn't have been sad if they would have scrapped the main event. I mean, I would have been sad for Jeff Neal because I think he's an exciting fighter. But the co-main event, I'm actually looking forward to. I want to see, Jose Aldo bounce back from his last loss to Peter Yan. I think he deserves, I don't know if, oddly enough, Jose Aldo is only 34, but to me, he's been fighting forever. So in my mind, he's a little bit, he's not a regular 34. He's a, battle hardened MMA 34. So I'm looking forward to that fight. I'm also looking forward to, I don't want to call myself a Greg Hardy fan, but he's the lesser known of the Hardy boys. Um, and I think he deserves a chance to, um, earn that hardcore nickname that his older brothers have done, in the past few decades in wrestling. And I would say that's, yeah, I would say those are the two fighters I'm looking forward to watching this weekend.
Well, that's been our picks. We've been TigerBomb MMA. We want to know what you guys think of our picks, so you make sure that you leave a comment down below. Like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Follow us on the Twitters, on the Instagrams, at TigerBomb MMA. I've been Johnny. This has been Jose. That's been the final prediction for the UFC of 2020. And have a good night.